this whole thingo. And so if that doesn't work, this might work. But yeah, how's it all going over there on the mainland with everything that's happening in the world?
Well, I've definitely seen the changes in the city here in Vancouver. Not as much traffic out there, not as much anywhere near as much people on taking public transit, from what I've been told.
Hmm.
I myself stopped taking public transit last week, so I've been riding a bike to and from work.
That's
Uh,
kind of trying to like train up for the tour, or
yeah, that, and also just again, I made the decision to kind of social distance myself and stay away from the bigger crowds, which as of last week was public transit. Like the buses and the sky trains are always full, but I have seen pictures and heard from others that they're almost empty now, which is a
yeah.
good sign, meaning other people are doing the same.
And it's actually, so yeah, it's insane. I've talked to a few different people, and like one was my father, and he was saying that his commute now is 20 to 30 minutes shorter,
Mm.
because he works in civil contracting, so they're still out there building, and like it because at this stage, we're still functioning as a society. It's just that most people have been asked to stay home to flatten the curve, right? So yeah, anyone that is actually still out there commuting to and from work, I mean, the commutes have just cut in half. And what I think the coolest thing that I've seen is that like the air pollution quality in China has like completely like gone from the areas where people like had to stop. And then also in like Italy, you're seeing in Venice like dolphins coming up the canals and like birds returning. And for all this back and forth, and like I work on plastic and you work on picking up litter when you're doing your runs, but for all the other things, people can say, oh, it's pretty hard to judge if we have an impact. Like 2 weeks, we've seen
Mhm.
how when we stop impacting, we
What a
actually see
change.
nature regenerate. So I think it's kind of fun to see. So the proof is in the pudding a little bit.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I think, like you said, with the air pollution disappearing and the dolphins going where they weren't before, it's like the Earth is catching its breath. It's like a breather from the overcrowding, overpollution that we've been kind of thrown at it the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I was really into. We're gonna kind of get into like you now, and
Okay.
this is really all about you anyway. Like when your friend first told me about your run last year. So anyone that is tuning in right now, this is Andy Sward at Million Bottle Pledge. He's run across Canada 3 times now,
Correct.
picking up bottles and cans and general litter on the side of the road. And this year we had planned to do to coincide with his route and host some community events and workshops and meet all the people across Canada that have great projects in all these cities. So the reason I became such a big fan is how simple of an idea it is that you do, and how you just kind of go about it and do it. You don't really care. I mean, I think the first time we talked, you're like, oh, I don't really know about aligning with any brand. I'm like, I love you even more now. And so yeah, why don't you give us a little story about why you started at Million Bottle Pledge?
Well, I spent many years in the restaurant industry, working here in Vancouver, and I saw a lot of food waste, paper waste, recycling waste. I mean, 7, 8 years ago, businesses were not at the point where they are now, where they are separating their garbage and recycling and composting and whatnot. Back then, everything was just going to the landfill, and it was pretty scary to see the amount of garbage that was out there. And I did a bicycle trip way back when. I'm backtracking now, but I did a bicycle trip in '98 from Vancouver to Toronto, and that kind of planted the seed for a run across Canada one day. And I decided to go for it in 2013. I wanted to run a minimal impact trip from coast to coast, and then like, so no support vehicle, no hotel visits, minimal restaurants. So I had a solar power charger to charge my phone and whatnot. And right when I started out from Vancouver Island, again, it bothered me seeing the litter on the side of the road, same as when I did the bicycle trip way back when. So I was like, Andy, if it bothers you so much, do something about it. So since my run was already about kind of like reduce, reuse, recycle, minimal impact kind of run, then I thought I'll just pick up some recycling on the way, and I would take to the next town or gas station or whatever, and just drop it off and hope that it would be properly recycled. The main thing was just getting off the road.
And I think that's one of the coolest things I like about your efforts, though, is because it's already a huge effort to run across Canada. You know, like one of the widest countries in the world, as everyone would know. And but then you're actually stopping every single day, all day, picking up other people's trash, and then even carrying that for miles and miles and miles, and sometimes not even being able to find a bin, a recycling bin, or even a garbage bin. And I followed you so much last year, where you know you go on your rants and very well earned rants about like I can't even get a bin now, and you've got like garbage bags overflowing everywhere, and yeah, the fact that you actually take the time to do that day in and day out for 6 months is it's insane. And I think yeah, you just deserve a lot of credit.
Well, what I really enjoy is seeing through social media and other people contacting me, Canadians and people all over the world who are doing similar things. Maybe not on such a broad scale, but going for daily walks around their neighborhood. When they take the dog out, when they take their kids out to the park, they bring a bag and they take care of their own community. This past trip, my third trip across Canada, I had some fun when I got to the East Coast. People would stop and ask me, what I'm doing when they see me pushing a cart with all these bottles and cans and Tim Hortons cups and whatnot. And I'd say I'm just doing a little cleanup around my neighborhood. And then they'd say, "Where are you from?" And I'd say,
Canada.
"Vancouver." but yeah, that was the point I was getting. Is like Canada is my neighborhood, and I really take pride in the fact we have a beautiful country, and I just like to sort of do what I can to keep some of the roads and trails a little bit cleaner for the next person who comes along behind me.
Absolutely. And like it was really weird because as you we've gotten to know each other over the last year, and you know I've been away for a long time, and you know you're coming back to Canada and working on this topic. You know, when you grow up here in the 80s, you have recycling, you got garbage. And I was kind of in the back of my mind, I think the plan with taking on the Plastic Oceans office was to generate a good, nice following here and be able to take that support back to the developing countries I had been working in. But every time I drive down the road, I'm like, "Where's Andy?" You know, because like it's like a disaster zone, like on the side of every highway that I drive on. And I
Yeah,
can't believe that people are still littering in this day and age. That you know we even actually have to do this. I mean, back 30 years ago, like it was a convict thing. You'd have to go and serve your community service picking up off the side of the road. And I remember even asking, like, we did that video. I was like, "Is this court ordered?" And you're like, "No, I just like keeping it clean."
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's insane that we actually still have this issue. And I think I saw that post from that kid on social media from you yesterday, because we kind of started doing that challenge thing of like get out there and clean up. But I think the timing's really sensitive right now. I think we don't want to touch on any soft spots, and some people really want to stay at home, other people want to be out there. So we really pulled back on, because this was only like less than a week ago we were starting our challenge about like, hey, with COVID and not being in big events, let's get out there and clean up Canada. And we kind of quickly just like nipped that in the bud. But then like 2 days later we saw that post, and what I might do is actually pull this up on the screen. So I'm going to screen share, and then I'm going to actually get the photo of that kid. And it made me think of you even more because he's actually got like a buggy, right? Did you notice that in the photo?
He's got, yeah. So he's out with his mom and his dad there, and this is a place in southern Ontario, not too far from Toronto, actually.
Okay.
And they just decided, since they can't go to, for example, the playground and play with like 20 other 30 kids, or they can't go to popular places that they might do on their March break. They're just going out by themselves, just the three of them, keeping their distance away from crowds and other people, but doing a little cleanup in their neighborhood at the same time.
Yeah, and I love that because yeah, like I was saying, like we were kind of, there he is. We wanted to just kind of pull back a little bit so we didn't step on toes and how people feel about this situation. But I love this headline: "Boy uses his time while social distancing to clean up his earth." And we did get a couple people post as we shared this, and hashtag Clean Up Canada, like we were talking about and talked about last year. And look at that. I mean, like you can just see all the, and it just, I don't know, really reminded me of you because it actually was a little baby stroller there.
Yeah, he's pushing a baby stroller, and that's a great shot there.
So is this one of your followers or?
No, that was just a coincidence. I just happened to be scrolling through social media a couple nights ago, just kind of looking for some good news, some positive news, and this just came across my feed. I think someone who does follow me, and I follow them as well. Trash Lucky Mums in also in Southern Ontario.
Okay.
It's a group of people that also get out and clean up their neighborhood, and it's pretty amazing. Like I said, there's lots of people like that all over the country and all over the world.
Yeah, and as we started coordinating the events to go alongside with your run, it's been insane. Some of the people that we've met. I mean, originally we thought that it was going to be, all sort of environmental orgs that already do cleanups. And to be 100% honest, we actually got a little bit of kickback because they'd be like, "What are you doing coming to our town and trying to hold an event?" We're like, "Whoa, we really wanted to like highlight you in your town and
Mm-hmm.
have you as that sort of local hero." But we started like coming across all these other people that like you said, they're just ploggers, and some of them actually were both, like actually in Newfoundland where we were going to start, and hopefully all this goes away and we're still able to do this, and if not this year, next year. But Kylie Best, I think her last name is, works at the Petty Harbor Mini Aquarium, and she actually started Newfoundland plogging. So she
Oh,
had this
wow.
huge network of people that actually already go for runs and pick up trash on the side of the road.
Yeah.
But she also happens to be a marine scientist that's the chair of a mini aquarium that does plastic pollution work. So we were going to get this, and it's insane how they really do cross over, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go into, you sent me some photos earlier today. I'm going to go back to screen sharing. I'm just going to walk through. And for anyone, if anyone actually is watching this, or if we ever share the recording at another time, and people watch it up, we'll just go through like how you actually live out there, which is, I find it really interesting. So, I mean, talk about social distancing. I mean, I think you're the king. So you go for a 6-month run across Canada, and even in April in the snow in Newfoundland, that's you. Like you'll be, can you see my screen there?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
So you can see that photo.
Yeah.
And literally that's what you go with, that buggy and that tent, and you have nothing else. You don't even have a chase vehicle. And even this year when we were talking about doing it together, we weren't talking about chasing you. We're, at times going to hopefully cross paths, but really just use your route as a timeline for us to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. I was excited about that. I mean, like the first 3 trips I have done a lot of the running and plogging on my own. I've had friends, individual friends, come out and join me. Like, so there'd be 2 of us running down for a good like 20, 30 kilometer stretch or more, all across the country. Actually, I have running friends that would come out and help me run.
nice.
And as I passed through their town, which was great. Yeah.
That's definitely what we were hoping that was going to happen this year, and really promoting is for people to just kind of meet you alongside the road, right? And either pick up these bags like we see in this shot here. Are you running barefoot now that your shoes are there?
No. I always run with. I always have 2 pairs of shoes.
Okay.
I like to alternate. It makes sense actually to give your shoes a day off every once in a while, or actually every other day off. So if I run 50 kilometers in 1 pair of shoes one day, then the next day that pair of shoes will have the day off, so it'll kind of bounce back their cushioning. But in the picture here, I find the shoes that I'm not wearing, they make good little pockets for things I have to put. I'll put my phone in there, I'll put my wallet in there, whatever else, and it's easy to grab as I'm running along, and I always have my eye on it, so I don't have to worry about losing it.
Nice. No, I mean, well, and then obviously we've seen with all the data collection that's gone on over the last few years. I mean, mostly with the shoreline cleanup, I'd say they're the 25 years running in Canada, but every environmental impact assessment as far as cleanups that go on, I mean, sadly, we can tell by being Canadians exactly what brand that is. That's the majority of your trash right there. We don't need to name and shame anyone. I think everyone is pretty sure what you're picking up on the side of the road. So, I mean, come on, people, why are you chucking it out the side of your car? I'm just going to go through a couple more photos, and maybe we'll go back to screen share, and then we can come back to photos again. But I just love seeing these, no matter, it's kind of always the same. It's always that same buggy. It's always you on the side of a road, but like there's always full bags. But I mean, it never gets old to me when I was following you last year. And I guess I always catch something different, like whether it's your solar charger here on the phone or you're sleeping there.
I was going to say, this is good. That's a good shot here because again, you can see the solar panels there that charge my phone and whatnot. I have a little Bluetooth speaker there on top because I will listen to music at a lower volume, but I don't like to wear headphones because I like to hear obviously the traffic that's going around me, and then also the people that are around me. Like sometimes, somebody will be on a side road and they'll just be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then they'll want me to come over and chat with them, kind of thing. Which is great. But yeah, that small baby jogger, just like a single baby jogger, holds everything I need: tent, sleeping bag, good supply of food, water, extra shoes, as you saw, and you know, you name it, it's all there.
And then what's with the hockey sticks? Is that just because you really want to prove that like it's a Canadian running across Canada, or is it just that
Well,
they ergonomically make sense?
they do come in handy, as you can see, to hang the mesh bags. Also, for example, if I get caught in a rainstorm and then the next day it's sunny, I can like hang a shirt or a jacket on the side of the hockey sticks as they're extending out, and that'll help dry as I run along. It was my uncle's idea from Northern Ontario, who thought I might want to sometimes give myself a break and run rickshaw style, pulling the cart behind me.
Yeah, yeah.
And, while I'm not too comfortable running with that, I do that method when I'm going up a steep hill. It's a
Oh,
lot easier to, yeah, it's a lot easier to kind of just tilt the hockey sticks down, and then just kind of just use the two big wheels, and then so the front wheel is actually off the ground as I climb the hill and pull the cart behind me. It's a little easier, and it gives the muscle groups a break, I guess.
yeah. It's always these little things when you know once you get out there and you're actually doing it that makes sense when somebody explains it, right? But
Yeah.
I guess I can't say I've ever heard of anyone ever running across Canada picking up bottles and cans, and you've done it 3 times. And I've heard about other cross country runs or up and down different routes and across the states and all over the world, really. But yeah, when it comes down to actually like towing all their own gear and picking up other people's weight along the way, it just boggles my mind every time. But this photo that we're looking at here, so do you come across this a lot? Like, so is this just all recyclables in one bin and then all garbage here, or is that?
Yeah, that's what that is. Well, mostly bottles and cans are not in the blue bin.
Okay, so something that has a container deposit or like an extended producer responsibility tied to it.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And these are the good news is, like, compared to the first one I ran 7 years ago, there are more and more of these on the roads on the Trans-Canada Highway.
So you do see a massive difference from 7 years ago to last year.
In most provinces, yes.
You don't need to shame anyone, but if you want to, you can.
Well, my home province of Ontario, unfortunately, that is the dirtiest province, and I don't think it's just because of the population. It's for example, the lack of recycling bins and the lack of deposit on bottles and cans. I mean, water bottles, pop cans, juice boxes, things like that. There is no deposit, so I think people are more likely just to toss them in the trash or toss them out the window. Whereas other provinces, you know, those things are worth money when you take it back to the depot.
But I mean, like, how are we still as a society, like, actually, or not us, obviously, but I mean, people still throwing things out the window or littering it just because they can't get money back that they put in it, just put it in the bin. I mean, like, I don't understand how Canada, that's supposed to be this world-renowned, beautiful country. I love this photo. Sorry, I had to bring this up. What's the quote there? Dreams don't just come true, they're accomplished little by little and step by step.
Yeah.
Is that your quote, or is that somebody like?
No, actually, a good friend of mine, Fast Eddie, who also ran across Canada a couple times. He ran across twice a few years back. He's a great photographer as well, and he met me last summer in Alberta, and he took this shot as I was approaching him, and then he kind of shared it with me, and put the quote up there. So it's one of my favorites. I kept it, and I owe all the credit for the photo to him, though. He's a great guy and a great photographer as well, as you can see.
So the quote's not actually yours, it's just one of your favorite quotes, right?
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
What is motivation is temporary, inspiration is permanent is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You know, actually, you got to have it in your bones if you want it to last, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. Now, obviously, with this year, and the reason why we're doing this super ghetto like live stream / record Zoom conference, because we're all locked inside. I mean, well, you're still going to work. Actually, why don't you tell us about that? So a lot of the country right now is obviously being asked to stay at home, but with your industry, like so are you guys still preparing food, or are you just shutting down?
We're pretty much shutting down. 90% of our company was laid off at the beginning of the week, and the remaining 10%, including myself, are probably going to be finishing up in the next couple of days. So we just had to wrap up the kind of the commitments we already had to people, and then we're actually also in the process of a big move. So that that had to happen before we shut down. So we're kind of doing that this week, and but it's very minimal people, and we are very keen on the social distancing as well. We're wearing gloves, we're washing our hands 10, 15 times a day. And for my commute back and forth to work, like I said, now it's via bicycle. It's 20K each way. So it's a little, I get to work a lot faster than I come home because I'm usually pretty tired at the end of the day. But again, I figure that's better than hopping on a bus and a SkyTrain, even though there are less people on them these days.
I mean, it's a hard one to judge, right? Because the thing is, like, we're still going to grocery stores, we're still going out to, people are filling up their cars and driving and such. So it's, if people can work, but I mean, as you know, I live in Tofino, and when I'm around, and so I'm only here part time, and hadn't been out here for a lot of years, and it's always really revolved around tourism, even when I first moved out here 20 years ago. But to have the town shut down because everything revolves around people coming and going is kind of a scary thing. But talking to a lot of friends all over the world, people nobody knows what's going to happen right on the other side of this. So luckily we actually live in a country where we are, we've been told we're going to be okay, and mortgages are being put on hold, and interest on credit cards will be put on hold. All the banks have kind of put their hand up, and there's been big relief packages. So I am really hoping that, people will stay home. But I guess, why don't we move into, even up until, I guess it was Sunday or Monday, we were still talking about going over to Newfoundland, starting the run, but canceling all the events.
Exactly.
Right? And at that time, it felt like a really good idea. I was like, all right, sweet, let's go over there. We'll get set up. We'll get a bunch of good people out to the front line with you, and run off the Terry Fox Memorial, and then I can start interviewing all the people that are doing different projects, and we can just kind of slowly go along without having mass gatherings. Within 24 hours, I'm sending you a text and be like, Andy, I don't think this is a good idea.
No, I agree. I think, like interprovincial, like our provincial travel, like, will be even kind of frowned upon, or not even permitted in the coming weeks and months. And so that'll be one thing, is like, there'll be no way to get to Newfoundland unless you're already there.
Yeah, we don't know yet. Right now, we're at a couple weeks, and we're already seeing a lot of positive success stories coming out of the countries that have been in this for a couple months. So, I mean, I am really hoping, if we're acting fast right now, it means that we've all still got a summer as a nation. I mean, we won't know for a little while, but yeah. So I guess, what's Plan B? I mean, we've been talking every day, and you want to get back out there, and as we looked at a couple of those photos, I mean, you are sleeping in a tent. You are kind of you're still keen to get out on the road and clean up. And we love seeing things like that young kid in Ontario, and the other people that have followed that post and started sharing what they cleaned up recently, which is great to see. But yeah, so you're just thinking no inter-province, maybe just kind of keep it local in BC as a start. And
as a start, yeah, I'm thinking more and more of maybe doing like a 30-day trial run, and which I would take social distancing to the extreme, as in when they talk about social distancing now in your hometowns and your cities, they say, like, just one person goes maybe grocery shopping once or twice a week for the bare necessities. The pharmacies will still be open, etc. If I was to do a run, I would be sleeping in a tent by myself, far away from anybody else. I would have all my supplies. I would get my water from streams running off the mountains, ideally, and yeah, I wouldn't walk into a cafe, a restaurant, or a store for those 30 days, and I wouldn't see any people. Well, except for from a distance for those 30 days. But at the same time, over 30 days,
no hugging strangers, Andy.
No hugging strangers, no. But at the same time, over 30 days, I could, maybe clean up 6,000-7,000 bottles of cans and cups and other sort of litter from our province. So that'd be something positive, I think, that would.
And what about I know you did west to east last year, and you wanted to go east to west this year. But what about potentially kind of getting out here in Tofino and starting? I know you got your head wrapped around the one way, but we got to work with what we've got. I mean, what about just starting out here at kilometer 1 and seeing how it goes after the first month, and if everything's lightning, and then you can keep going east.
That's another thing I'm thinking about as well. Like that would be excellent to do. But again, I'm going to just sort of wait and see what happens beginning of April, and see what the government's recommending, see what the health organization is recommending, and if they're saying that you should not get on a ferry or not get on a public vessel, then even me getting to Vancouver Island would be a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess if we're going to share this around, I can't even see my phone. I doubt anyone's actually even watching this. It's like we are going to share the recording after, and maybe someone will watch it. So if anyone has a boat, if BC ferries are shut down and they want to put Andy up on the bow, strap him to the mast like Bill Murray and What About Bob, and get him over to Vancouver Island if he's going to stay away. If he promises to stay away from everyone else and not touch anything other than picking up everyone else's trash, please do reach out to at Million Bottle Pledge. You can get all the applications, or Plastic Oceans Canada, and we'll see if we can get Andy over here. Obviously, only if the authorities are saying that it is safe to be out there doing anything. It might escalate, but I'm hoping that in a couple weeks' time, when we were originally planning, I mean, we're still 3 weeks away from original launch, right?
Yeah.
And so we're going to be monitoring it closely, but let's talk about the name at Million Bottle Pledge. So I mean, we had a bunch of different fun ideas for how we were going to do this year and different challenges. And you've been busy working this winter because you follow the model of you go off and do your summer missions, and then you come back and then you work your butt off and save up your money. And you do this all self-funded, which is, I think, amazing. We're definitely trying to help cover your costs through our fundraising channels and trying to work together on that. But your main thing was million bottles. And I remember you did a video last year near the end of your run, and you were like, you calculated how many days you had been running for over all your trips and how many bottles and cans you'd actually cleaned up. And you're like, I think I'm going to have to do this until I'm like 185 until I reach 1 million bottles. And what was the calculation again? How many have you picked up over your 3 runs?
I'm at about 106,000 right now, but the video you're talking about was when I was at that 100,000, number 100,000. That's yet, I don't think I was going to be quite that old, but I was definitely over 100 by the time I would reach a million bottles. But that's why it was perfect timing when I met you, and we talked about doing things, kind of bigger and get more people involved. And if not this year, then next year, then I would like the idea of, for example, as I pass through a town, we talked about communities that are plugging, like running groups or whatnot, rather than just have my one great friend in Winnipeg, or one person I know in Regina, or rather than having just one person come out, getting a good 20, 30 people out on the day that I pass through that particular town, clean up all over, and then all those totals would count to my million bottle pledge. So
well, yeah, that was kind of my idea. I wasn't going to tell you until like the day we started, but I was just going to tell you to go and do their own blogging. It doesn't matter if you're in town or not, and just like tag you at Million Bottle Pledge and quantify how much they grabbed. So we would just chuck that all on your tally and hopefully blow it out of the water before we even got off the island of Newfoundland. You'd be like, we've inspired more than 1 million bottles cleaned up. And then you'd be like, I'm going to do it on my own now. But no, I think that's still great. I mean, obviously we want everyone to stay clean, and picking up litter is not necessarily clean. There are some reports coming out that the virus does attach to plastic longer than other organic materials and compostable materials. So definitely, if you are going to go and do a cleanup, if anyone is watching this or watches the share after, please just wear some latex gloves, or even just gardening gloves, and wash your hands when you get in. We've all got a little bit of spare time. There's not a lot of people out and about. So yeah, definitely, if you'd like to do a cleanup, and tag at Million Bottle Pledge and hashtag cleanupcanada, like we started last year to try to quantify as many people or as much as we could kind of inspire to get cleaned up, just like that young boy we saw in the news article. But yeah, first things first is making sure everyone's actually safe and clean. We don't want to promote any sort of unsafe activity at this stage while we're still learning. But definitely, if you feel up for it, I mean, you've done one. You challenged me. I went out there and I was walking down the beach, and I was actually on the mainland like the day before I came back home. And I didn't think I was going to find anything. And then like 5 feet later, I had like that half a bag in the video that I lifted up. I was like, every time.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. And I think for the most part, I mean, Canadians also find it hard to believe that, that this litter out there, or that people would do that. But even if 1% or even like 0.5% of the population does it, that's still, that's still a lot of people. That's like 175 to 350,000 people that are littering out there. So that's going to add up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I was saying earlier in this chat. I mean, it boggles my mind to see the stuff on the side of the road, and so somebody's got to be doing it. And I remember that other little fun video we did back when I got back in the country in November, and we're just like, oh man, more people should be like you. And you turned around to the camera and said, or they could just stop littering. And it's true. Like, we're not here pointing a finger at anyone, but I just think more people, should kind of follow your lead and get out there and do a little cleanup. They don't need to run across the country back and forth 3 times and plan for another 4th. But don't just definitely get out there and do something, or just stop littering in the first place.
Yeah.
I did have somewhere I was going to go there with an idea, but I don't know. Is there anything you wanted to cover before we press stop on this thing and see if anyone actually even watched it?
No, just except for like people out there. I know it's a stressful time. It's a scary time, reading the news and whatnot. But just like the little boy from Ontario there, that him and his mom and his dad, to take their mind away from everything, to kind of like unplug from the TV or the internet. They just went out, got some fresh air, and did this again, keeping their distancing and respecting that and staying away from other people. But they did something positive and they felt better for it, and they shared it. And then there's 100 people that read that story and then they feel a little bit better about the country and the world as well. So I think try not to get too stressed out. Try not to worry too much, and take a breath and just and like know that there's still good out there. And Canadians, we're pretty lucky. I mean, we're going to be helping out each other. We live in a big, beautiful country. We're not overcrowded really. We have a lot of space and a low population compared to most countries in the world. So I think we should be once again considering how fortunate we are, and don't take it for granted. Appreciate the world and the land around us.
Yeah, I mean, financially, the United States is their commitment is the same dollar figure as we've committed, and they have 300 million and we've got 30 million. So, I think what our government is doing so far, trying to assure everyone that we're going to be okay financially. We're going to figure this out. It's an even playing field. We're all dealing with the same thing. So right now, basically, we can kind of take a step back. And I was saying this last week as things were escalating quickly with anyone that I was around personally. And it's just like, I don't know, man, like it's kind of scary, but at the same time, it's almost maybe what was needed in the world for everyone to just take a little step back and reassess our footprint and what we've been doing. And that's how we're seeing this all go down in like China and Italy and all these other places with nature regenerating within weeks, and so it's kind of like the proof's in the pudding. Now we can really just say, we do have a physical, or we have an impact and a footprint on the planet when we're consuming at the level that we were. So yeah, I think it's time to reflect, time to get out there and be like Andy, pick up trash on the side of the road and get it in a bin. Or if we do get up and going, obviously we're going to share that with everyone. Only going to be doing it if it's safe. And a bug just went in my mouth. I'm going to eat that because you never know when I'll get a meal again. But yeah, thanks for spending the time. Maybe we'll just get everyone to smile a little bit. We've got a little recap, like the shark in Jaws. I know Mason.
Pause, I like it.
like Catzilla one that I'm going to wear on our opening day.
Okay.
We're going to have Catzilla over there in Newfoundland, hopefully. If not, we'll do what we can this year, and hopefully everyone can be outside enjoying this great country. Even if we can't travel overseas, hopefully we can still at least enjoy our backyards.
Yeah, I like that idea. Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, be safe riding your bike to and from work on the empty roads of the Lower Mainland, and stay in touch. And we hope to be together soon when we're not social distancing.
Sounds good. You have a great weekend.
All right, you too, man. Take care.
So.